What up guys, SuperMetal983 here, and you bring us another album review, and yet again another unique leader release that you really need to check out when it drops on March 9th. But I'm going to be doing a review of the new Krosis album and their debut album, which is called Solem Vatem. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but if you're not too familiar with Krosis, they are a kind of, as if kind of progressive deathcore, if you could pigeonhole them into one genre, progressive deathcore. But they have a lot more going for it than just a straight up progressive deathcore kind of band. They take a lot of elements from straight up deathcore to a bit of gent influence in there, a lot of groove, and in general a lot of progressive elements in there for good measure. Now, if I'm not mistaken, just thinking back on Unique Leader's releases over the course of their existence, there hasn't really been a kind of progressive deathcore kind of genty kind of release that they've put out. The only bands that really come to mind are Fallujah, so if you're a big fan of Fallujah, you might find something to like about these guys, in particular if you're a fan of, say, The Flesh Prevails, for example. If you're a fan of that album, definitely check this one out. It's definitely up that alley. Kind of a bit of a spoiler, but what can you fucking do? But anyway, this release was obviously the second release that I received from Unique Leader to review on this channel. And this one was obviously, I was going in blindside because I had no fucking clue who the band was. Never heard anything of their existence, nothing like that. So I was going in open-minded, didn't know what to expect, but I was going to... I had quite an assumption that this was going to be a good album just from the artwork itself. It's... very beautiful artwork, I have to say. Really impressed with that, and the fact that it's just a little bit of text over the top, so it really expresses the artwork a lot in its sense. So I was really looking forward to checking this one out, and I thought, you know what, the first night I got it, I thought, you know what, let's check out that Krosis album. And literally, from the first listen I listened to this album, I was mighty fucking impressed with this. Like, it was kind of like a fresh... a sense of freshness in here, because I didn't really expect a kind of progressive deathcore kind of release. I expected some like tech death kind of sort of stuff, but having listened to this album, I have to say it is a very fucking enjoyable release, and definitely a good start to 2017 when I first 2018 when I first received this promotional copy. And I have to say, I really enjoy the progressiveness of this album. It kind of puts in mind, this release kind of puts in mind, as I said, a bit of Fallujah's The Flesh Reveals in my personal extent. But a lot of vibes that I do get on this is kind of like an old school kind of mid-era kind of Veil of Maya kind of influence with the genty kind of tone. Kind of, if you're a fan of the album, what's it called? Eclipse. If you're a fan of that album, then you'll definitely find something to like about this one. And also, I'd have to say ID, I think that's what it's called, the album previous to Eclipse. If you're a fan of those two albums, you'll find something to like about these guys. It kind of has that kind of genty but heavy kind of tone to it. And also, if you're a fan of, if you are familiar with them, Nexilva, they're a band from the Northeast which are coming back, so that's great for the future. Yeah. Anyway, but anyway, this album definitely undergoes a lot of progressive deathcore kind of blend of perfect two styles. I definitely get that kind of genty vibe on there, but normally the gent you're associated with like the metalcore, but when it's involved in deathcore, particularly in my opinion, I think it works so fucking well, and more bands need to use it. I know the likes of, you could say to an extent, Structures have used it over the years when they existed, but I have to say Veil of Maya, Nexilva and Fallujah are definitely an influence in that home front. The musicianship is very tight on this record, and you need to be with a kind of chunky, kind of as if percussive kind of tone that gent is kind of known for. But this is still a massive sounding album, and definitely something that I really enjoy a lot about this album. And for all I haven't really heard a lot of this sort of style of deathcore in the genty sort of side of things, I think it really works for this sound and sounds fantastic. The production is very clean, very crisp, but very well executed and very high quality, and I really absolutely adore that. I think this album is definitely something to be proud of, and definitely something that needs to be heard in 2018. If you have a bit more of a broader mindset on metal and you want to check out something that's quite new and quite inventive, and it kind of has a bit of an experimental kind of vibe. I think it's the song Renaissance, the 7th track. If you haven't, if you heard that one, you'll know exactly what I'm saying. But also check out the song Immolation Fist. That is definitely another one of my favourites on there. Also the first track, the intro track, Disclosure, sets up the album perfectly, and then into the first proper track, which is Melting Point. It hits hard, and it kind of, the vocals kind of give off, in my opinion personally, like a kind of CJ McMahon from obviously Die Art's Murder kind of vibe. That's the kind of tones that I hear when it comes to this album. Also another track that I think is very, very strong on this album is Buoyancy, which is the 4th track on this album. Make sure you check out that one when this album drops. When this album drops, you just need to listen to it in its full to know it in the extent. It's got a very soothing melodies in there that really chill out the album and then hit you in the face with a hard-hitting riff that percussive, especially my favourite song on this album, Terminus, the last track on this album. When you just think the album's finished, I remember when I first heard this, I thought this album finished at that point. I had my iTunes shrunk down, and that track came on, that fade out in the bottom. I was like, oh, I can go and make myself another cuppa. And I literally picked up my cup, went to water the door, and then it kicks in with that mighty smash-heavy, hard-hitting riff, and Duncan Bentley from Vulvodynia just coming in with those super low gutturals out. I just literally turned around, I was just like, ooh. It literally hits you like a fucking hammer to the fucking face, like a 10,000 ton hammer, just boom, doesn't give a fuck, just like, yep, you thought it was over, cunts. But honestly, there's also John Robert from The Last 10 Seconds of Life also making an appearance on Apathos Vacant, and also you've got Parade Danelle from Kadinja. I butchered the living shit out of that. I know I should just walk out of this room and just forget about reviewing. But anyway, that's the song Void Fracture, which is the 3rd song on this album. But yeah, honestly, this album, in my opinion, is an absolute monster of an album. It's something that I kind of, to an extent, didn't expect. But when I heard it, I was just like, fell in love with it. And this is so far in me run as being one of the best albums so far that I've heard this year. There's been some great albums. I've also heard the new Ingested album, which is coming along very, very fucking soon. If you can't wait for that review, just wait a little bit longer. It will come up very shortly. But anyway, this new Krosis album is absolutely spectacular and a very enjoyable listen, and something very creative, quite experimental in a sense. That's the way it feels when you listen to this album. But for an overall score now, I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10. This is a really solid release, and something that is definitely going to be one of the standpoints of 2018. I can say that for sure. So make sure you check out Krosis, Solem Vatem. I believe that's how it's pronounced. It's going to drop March 9th. This will be up before then, hopefully. But yeah, make sure you check out this album when it drops and pick up your pre-order. I cannot wait to pick up this album at some point in the near future, but money side of things, I can't at the moment. But I will definitely be picking this up, because this is definitely one of the highlights so far of 2018. So yeah, make sure you check out Krosis if you're a fan of Fallujah, Nexilva, or Veil of Maya. Definitely check these guys out. But yeah, make sure you check out Unique Leader Records as well. And I'll see you until the next video. Remember, stay metal, and I'll see you later.